action in Iraq is finally at rest next to his brothers and sisters at arms.
U.S. Army Specialist Matthew Holley's body was moved from Glen Abbey Memorial Park in Bonita to the Miramar National Cemetery ahead of Memorial Day. And that's where we find our Sarah and Cenas join us live to share how his legacy continues to impact service members and their families. Sarah.
Logan and Teresa, this is really an honor 20 years in the making. U.S. Army Specialist Matthew Holley is from San Diego, but his legacy, it stretches far beyond. In fact, his death changed the way that service members killed in action are brought back home to their loved ones. In honor for a fallen hero.
Recognition of devoted selfless consecration to the service of our country and the armed forces of the United States.
Nearly 20 years later.
Have it finally happen is one kind of a cloud off of our, back, so to speak, but it was also, on the other hand, it was hard to do because it's like opening the whole wound for a second time.
Stacy and John Holley's only son, Matthew, was killed in action in Iraq on November 15, 2005, after an IED exploded under the Humvee he was inside. Thursday, his body was moved from Glen Abbey Memorial Park to the Miramar National Cemetery so he can rest next to his brothers and sisters at arms.
That option wasn't available to us in 2005 because Miramar, Fort Rosecrans was full and Miramar was not constructed yet.
The Holleys sat at the ceremony surrounded by loved ones and people who benefited from their son's legacy.
It seems kind of cliche-ish to say it, but as a parent, just a heart of gold.
We raised him, at least I did, pretty strictly. But, he wasn't perfect, but he was about as close to perfect as a person. I'm serious, and I'm not just saying that.
U.S. Army Specialist Holley's parents raised him to always be a cut above and serve others. He did both even after death, changing the way fellow service members are brought home if they're killed in action. When he was brought home in 2005, the Holleys were not okay with the way their son would return.
So we asked, please explain to us how this works. And that's the first time that we found out how they were bringing the fallen home
As freight
on commercial airliners. And so John stepped out of the hallway and just like, this isn't going to happen to Matthew.
Yeah, one way or another, I was determined to get an honor guard to take him off the aircraft. I didn't want him treated like luggage,
So they worked to create the Holley provision, which brings those killed in action back home on charter planes, rather than on commercial flights. The Holleys say since it went into effect in 2007, nearly 5,000 families have benefited from receiving their loved ones in a dignified way. The overall journey to honor their son has been decades long. If Matthew was here today, his parents think he'd say,
Way to go, Mom and Dad. I think our son would say, you taught me to be a cut above, and you certainly are a cut above.
And the Holleys will actually be speaking at the ceremony on Monday here at the Miramar National Cemetery. In the meantime, they do have a GoFundMe up to help pay for the expenses from transporting his body from Glen Abbey to the Miramar National Cemetery. You can find that on our website, KUSI.com. For now, I'm at the Miramar National Cemetery. Sarah and Cenas, KUSI News.
All right, Sierra, thank you for that. So the city of Chula Vista